Arlene. And I'm now ready to start my presentation. So this afternoon, I'm going to be talking about what I think is a very important subject for everybody who is on the webinar today, changing the DNA of live events. And the reason why I'm talking about changing the DNA of live events is because we're in a world where the demographics of the population are changing. And by 2030, in 6 years' time, we're going to be having a different type of population demographic in the world. And really what we need to do is to think about, well, how should our events change because of the new demographics in the world? And hopefully also through my presentation, I'll give you some guidance on how, when you organize your next event, you can organize your event to reflect the changing population. So I hope you enjoy my presentation. I'll speak for about 20 minutes, and then later on, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might want to put to me. But the starting place to say is really that by 2030, in 6 years' time, 75% of the global workforce will be comprised of generations Y and Z. And generations Y and Z are, generations Y are millennials, and generation Z is everybody who was born between 1995 and probably round about 2010, 2012. So I would think that most people on the webinar today will be in either generation Z or generation Y. So the point I'm making is that when we organize events for the future, we need to organize events that will interest and attract your generation, generation Y and generation Z. And when understanding the characteristics of generation Y and generation Z, it helps us to develop the content and the theme of our events. So these are just some of the general characteristics that are representative of your generation. You are the most educated generation in history. In 2024, more people go to university and colleges and polytechnics than ever before. You are educated. You're also very diverse in terms of your interests, your characteristics, your religions, your cultural habits. You're also very connected, more connected than any previous generation, because you were born with digital technology in your fingertips. Because you're educated, you're looking for professional and skilled occupations. Some of you will also be interested in becoming entrepreneurs. And you're more socially conscious. You're aware of the world around you. So when designing events for the future, and when changing the DNA of live events, we have to understand your characteristics, because you are the main market segment who will be coming to events in the future. But also, another characteristic of your generation is you have a short attention span, which means that we shouldn't be organizing events that have too long a duration. So events in the future need to have short durations and content that is suitable for your interests being part of generations Y and Generation Z. So how should the events industry respond to your generation? What should we be doing as event organizers? Well, I think that we need to think differently about the events that we organize. And if we are organizing a one-day event, then think of it as a theatre show, a theatre production. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in a minute or two, designing a one-day event as a theatre show. If you're organizing a 2 or a 3-day event, make it a festival. And if you're organizing a business event, and today's webinar is a business event, combine education with entertainment. But no matter whether it's a one-day event, a 2 or 3-day event, or a business event, try and provide personal experiences for all of your participants. So that's really the main part of what I'm going to be talking about in my presentation. So if you're organizing a one-day event, think of it as a theatre show. And all theatres, all shows in theatres, they have a story, they have a setting, they have characters, they have scripts, and they use audio-visual technologies. Think carefully about the story you will tell through your event. Think carefully about the setting, the venue that you will choose. Think carefully about the people who will be performing at your event, the characters. Plan their script and use audio-visual technology to bring it to life. And this is one example of a one-day event. It's an exhibition. It's a tourist exhibition. And this is the Philippines exhibition booth. But within the exhibition booth, a story will be told about the Philippines as a tourist destination. There will be characters who will represent the Philippines and share information. They will have a script that they will follow to explain the wonderful beaches and destinations of the Philippines. And it's all brought together and highlighted with audio-visual technology. It's a theatre show, but it's an exhibition. If you enjoy music, if you enjoy Coldplay, when they have their one-day concert or an evening concert, they also have many of the characteristics that I've just mentioned. They have a story to tell. Coldplay currently on their world tour are telling a story about sustainability. Many of the elements within the tour are sustainable. They use beautiful venues, beautiful arenas, which are brought to life with audio-visual technology. And the band members, they know what their script is. They know what they are saying. So when designing a one-day event, no matter what type of event it is, think as if you are producing a theatre show. If your event is over 2 or 3 days, then think that you are organizing a festival. And with a festival, you can have many different elements within it. Have comedy, have music, have wonderful experiences for your participants. Also, with a festival, you have time to do socially responsible activities. This is what Generation Z and Generation Y are seeing as important: social consciousness, social responsibility. So if your event is over 2 or 3 days, think as if you're organizing a festival. This is an event that APM we organized in October 2023. It ran over 3 days. There were many different elements to the festival. We had our conference, the Asia Pacific State-of-the-Art Events Research Conference. We had a Mandalika International Festival that highlighted the wonderful cultures of Lombok in Indonesia, where the event was being staged. We took our participants outside of the conference venue to explore the local cultural communities. And we had some beautiful traditional cultural dancing on an evening. And then after the evening, we had street food vendors providing delicious food. And it all finished with the highlight of a music show, which included a DJ, a fashion show, and a stand-up comedian. So make your event, if it's 2 or 3 days, into a festival and change the DNA of your event in that way. And then finally, if you're organizing a business event, which is similar to what we're having this afternoon in the webinar, combine education with entertainment. And think very carefully about the program and content. Make sure that the speakers that you use for a business event can engage the audience, can get their attention. Make sure that the speakers use multimedia, videos, as well as using the standard projection techniques that we are very familiar with. Also, for a business event, make sure that the information that is shared from the speakers to the audience will help the participants advance their careers, and make sure that the content cannot be accessed from online sources or from artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT. If you're using materials that are already available, why should we attend? We can stay at home and watch YouTube. We can do our own ChatGPT interrogations. So make sure that the content that the speakers use is novel and it's special for the event that's being organized. And the speakers, try and engage speakers who have got high energy, who are using interesting visuals, but importantly, are experts in their field. The speakers need to be experts, and that is one reason why the participants will be attracted to attend the event. So my final part of my presentation is to say that whether it's a one-day event, which is a theatre show, whether it's a 2 or 3 day festival, or whether it's a business event, create memorable experiences. And we can create memorable experiences for our participants through our senses. We have 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste, and incorporate these into every event that you organize. Think about what we see, have a music soundtrack to your event. If you're using delicious food, then share the aromas before the participants enjoy the food. Give opportunities for touching and dancing and movement, and build these into your event to create a memorable experience. Have interactive elements, have games, live polls, Q&A sessions, collaborative activities and workshops. Build these in because they help to give that extra special experience for your participants. And let's see if you can play a game with me this afternoon. So I'm going to have a short game with you now, and it's what I call the emoji game. And I want everybody to look carefully at the screen in front of you. And I'm going to show 4 emojis where it says the emoji game. And you have to guess what type of event it is that those emojis represent. So are you ready? Are your eyes open?
Yes.
Are you looking at the screen? Let's go. I hope you're ready. Here's the first 4 emojis. What type of event do these 4 emojis represent?
Birthday.
Correct, you've got it right, birthday. Okay, another one. What about these emojis?
It's a wedding event.
Sing.
Correct, very well done, very well done. And another one. A party. So you got the first 2. Maybe you got the third one, but weren't able to shout out. And I think this is my last one. What type of
It's a
event
job
is
promotion.
It's a what?
It's a job promotion event.
I'm not quite sure about that. It's a meeting. It's a meeting. Okay. So the purpose of that short little game was to say, yeah, include gamification into your event because it can add another type of experience for your participants. And always embrace technology. And we live in the world now where technology is advancing so quickly, week by week, month by month, and it really does add a new dimension to changing the DNA of live events. So I'm at the end of my presentation now, and really just 2 final slides to summarize. Remember that the key to changing the DNA of live events is to be innovative, be adaptive, and importantly, understand your audience. Your audience in the future is likely to be Generation Y and Generation Z. So organize events that you will enjoy going to. Incorporate technologies, make your events interactive, and understand that if it's a 1-day event, it should be a theatre show. A 2 or 3-day event, it's a festival. And if it's a business event, combine education and entertainment. So the conclusion, know your target audience and their preference. Do market research before your event. Speak with participants who will be coming about what they would like to do and what their expectations are. And then with this information, you can design your event to meet the needs of your participants who are coming to your event. So thank you for listening. And we've got the Q&A session later on. And please do keep in touch with APM. We are active on social media. If you are a Facebook person, please send a friend request to APM Student Membership, which is a closed group. Follow us on Instagram, which is APM_2017. And if you are not on LinkedIn, please have a LinkedIn account. And my LinkedIn account is under my name, Professor David Hind. So please do keep in touch with us through social media. And once again, a big thank you to Dr. Amila for inviting me to be part of your webinar this afternoon. And I forgot to say that I'm speaking to you from the United Kingdom, where it's now coming up to 9:30 in the morning in the United Kingdom. So time for me to have a cup of tea, and I look forward to the rest of the webinar today.
Okay, that Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful speech, and also that you have expressed very important insights about the present trends, and also that the future of the event management. And then I would like to invite Professor Maria to share her views on sustainability initiatives for the event.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amila. I'll be sharing my slides. Just hold on a minute. Okay. Here goes.
Start grass.
Let me get that big.
Okay.
Start na.
Okay, madam, we can see your screen.
Okay, sir. Let me just fix my view. All right. Good afternoon from the Philippines. My name is Associate Professor Maria Arlene Disimulacion, and I'm very happy to share the stage with the President and Founder of APM, Professor Dr. Hind, and thank you very much, Dr. Amila, for inviting me to join your event for today, and everyone else from the University College of Ratmalana in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, I'm going to talk about sustainability initiatives, and I'd like to give you a brief on the discussion points that we'll be having. These are very short items. We'll have first a definition of what it is about. We'll have the findings, the challenges, and opportunities on what actually we can do as far as sustainability is concerned. So sustainability is generally defined as that making sure that we live the planet the way we have it now so that people in the future can enjoy the resources. It talks about the triple bottom line, talks about responsibility of the tourists. It talks about the environmental, social, and corporate governance. But I'd like to reiterate and emphasize the term regenerative tourism in terms of sustainability in events, wherein an event is made better after all the activities have come and gone. It is just not leaving it for future generations, but making it better. And that is what we'd hope to be able to do today. For the findings, I'd like to share that 17% of people are actually aware of what the sustainable development goals are. 30% are aware but are not using this in their event operations. And 56% sadly are totally unaware of what's actually taking place. Another finding says that a conference attendee, whether young as you are or younger as I am, discards 1.89 kilograms of waste every single day, and that a 1,000 person 3-day event produces more than 5,000 kilograms of garbage. And this is not just from paper, but includes plastic and catering. And so you do the math, because there are hundreds and thousands of events going on every single day. And additionally, we would like to focus on the well-being as the core of sustainability, because what happens sometimes is we forget about the residents, the local communities that are affected, hopefully positively, but are sometimes impacted negatively by the events that we bring to their locations. So these are some of the issues. There's political, different agenda, socioeconomic, and we think that it brings cash, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just for a small group. Environmental is a huge scope of sustainability issues. There's ethical standards we have to comply with, and there are technological difficulties as well. So some examples also of these difficulties and issues include data privacy. The technology helps us to gather information, but then we want to make sure that this information is safe and private and used only for what it purports to say so. Food waste, oh my goodness. This is very important, especially for Filipinos like me who love eating. So we'd like to make sure that we minimize the excess. And then in terms of a larger event, there's so many abandoned Olympic venues that have wasted so much dollars, millions of dollars, but are left unattended. In terms of challenges, sustainability is basically a Western concept. So when I got to meet with some indigenous groups and tribes in the Philippines, my initial question for them is, how do they sustain their livelihood? How are they able to become resilient when there are so many changes in the environment? Because we have a very limited understanding and we feel that we know better than the residents and the communities themselves. Another challenge is there's too many certification bodies. We just cannot focus on which one to use, which one would be helpful, and which one is really useful. And in terms of sustainability in events, is always the focus on climate, garbage, paper, and plastic. But that's not all. There's so many um, ideas, insights that are affecting or may affect sustainability. And as you know, there's 17 sustainable goals. And there are sometimes misaligned objectives. One quick example and one quick case study. If our client in events want to go sustainable, the first thing we have in mind is we use no paper. No paper. We probably use real tablecloths, nice tablecloths, linen. We use the nice kinds of things that we see, beautiful flowers. And then we insist also that there's no styrofoam. However, there are times that this objective as event organizer does not match what the objective of the client or of our school is. For example, it's really easier to use a styrofoam for suppliers, for quick dining, and for disposing. So that is a challenge in event sustainability, especially for school events. We would like to go high and aim high, but then we've got to be practical, it's got to be feasible, and it's got to be aligned with the objectives as much as we could. Okay. And then we have to understand that it's not just about the organizer. We have to understand the stakeholders. We have to understand the students who will be attending, faculty. We have to know if there are any audiences involved as well, because sustainability is about all of us. But there are so many opportunities, like what Dr. Hind, one of my mentors, has mentioned. There's a way to use creative tourism. Like when we had the Asia Pacific State of the Art Conference in Lombok, there was a whole range of activities that focused on creative culture that showcase not just what the city or the place and destination is about, but what the spirit of it is about. Our individual contribution also makes up the collective consciousness. Every single thing we do makes up for us to be able to make sure that our event is sustainable. And also, Professor Hind mentioned that focus on immersion and authentic experiences, which make sure that we include the community in our events. And I know that in Far Eastern University, Manila, we always make sure that we are sustainable across different SDGs. We may not achieve all 17, but we are tasked to make sure that we focus on at least one or two or three so that we contribute to the collective sustainability objectives. Here's another one that we can do. We can check the attendees mapping, where they are and where we can put more sustainability ideas. Maybe technology could be used here. Maybe they can speed up the registration. Maybe there's no need for them to queue. Another opportunity is creative reuse. If you're familiar with a certain festival in India, there's a lot of flowers that are fresh flowers, part of the festival. However, it has become a major problem, and now they have turned to creative reuse. The shoes on the side is an output of the flowers that will have to be discarded, but were turned into something useful after the festival. And this is another case study, mini case study, of when we need to align our objectives. We cannot remove the flowers. That's part of the tradition. We cannot remove the festival. That's part of the religion. Therefore, we need to be a little more creative on how we can manage that garbage. For another example, we can look at niche tourism events. I am very pleased and humbled to share with you that I did a paper on Rizal province as a bicycle tourism destination. Rizal is a province in southern Luzon, eastern Luzon, I'm sorry, and it is known for its nature. It is also known for so many places to eat, to visit, to attend cultural events. And bicycle tourism is something that is very sustainable, that can invite more groups of people to come and visit Rizal. If you'd like to get a copy of the paper, just let me know and I'll send you one. It's actually open access anyway. Some more innovative ideas. I remember during our latest APM conference, we had an ID that was a QR code which contained all our information. There was no need for any other paper. We didn't need to put down details because everything was in that code, and all we had to do was screenshot it. Of course, hybrid events like this allow us for less transportation costs, less emissions, and makes us available for everyone any place in the world. We need to source from the local communities so that we are able to support them as well in their endeavor to become more sustainable in terms of the profit generation, employment, and jobs. Tokens we can pick up from micro and small enterprises. Sometimes these are even more interesting than what we can find from malls. The fifth one is menu options. Sometimes we tend to have a lot of food waste because we assume that everybody eats the same thing, but people have preferences, people have allergies, and there goes the waste. If we think through what a specific person or group of people can do to minimize waste, I'll share with you another quick study. One of the events that I managed for a multinational company where I used to work, we had separate tables for people who were vegans, a separate one for those who are vegetarians, a separate one for those who didn't want any salt, and a separate one for diabetics. And what initial thought from our client was that it was a waste of money. But what happened was it actually reduced the cost of wastage because the people, the attendees, the suppliers and everybody else who were there were eating the food that is right for them based on their preferences, instead of forcing them to eat what we had prepared for them or making them pay extra for food that they feel that they need to eat. Of course, reusable decor is one activity that we can use. We can bring in the same materials. We can bring in the same styrofoam. If really, as I said, sometimes there's no compromise on non-negotiable things with our clients or with our faculty, with our professors, with our university. So then we'll have to come up with a way so that we don't add to the waste. Immersive experiences like the one that you see on the photo. This is in Puerto Princesa, where at the time that I was there with our students on their educational tour, we were able to see wonderful women who were weaving, and we were asked to participate in creating some tablecloths that we could bring home ourselves. Of course, it may not be as perfect as they would do, but then it gave us that opportunity to understand what they're doing and to enjoy it as well, and give them that pride that we understand what they're actually involved in as far as creative tourism is concerned. In my last few slides, I just like to make mention that the roadmap is the need for best new practices. There's so many changes. It's so dynamic. The tourism and hospitality industry is very complex and interconnected. And so let's look at ways that will make it resilient, collaborative, inclusive, and innovative. And these are my references. And I'd like to thank you very much, Professor Amila. Thank you very much to the students and faculty who joined us. I'm very, very happy to be with you. I'm Associate Professor Maria Disimulacion. And my Facebook, please, it's public. You can please be a part of my Facebook tribe. It's BAM Disimulacion. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, and all the best for everybody in the industry.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Professor Maria, for your wonderful speech, and also you shared some of your very important research findings with us, and also that some of those the sustainable practices are very, very important for the industry. When we are looking at the future, that there will be more and more concern about the sustainability of the events. And now I would like to move to the question and answer discussion session. And the audience, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box, so that you raise hand. We will allow you to raise your voice and ask the questions from our professors. And already we have received some questions, and that we have lots of students at our audience from Sri Lanka and also from Philippines. They have a high level of concern about that their future in the industry, future career perspectives in the industry. Then that some students have raised the question that you are the best to answer. Both of you are the best to answer those questions. That they are asking that what are the most demanding skills in the future of the industry, and what kind of the job opportunities they will have in future in the industry. Professor Hind first, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that very important question. What skills are needed and what are the job opportunities? Well, many different skills are needed. And I know that within the APM Academy, with our training courses that we have, we cover many different aspects of event planning, event management, and creative event design. But in terms of skills, what skills would an employer be looking for when recruiting somebody into their company? I think that they'd be looking for somebody who is a problem solver, somebody who can think quickly and logically, somebody who is a good team player, somebody who is a good communicator, somebody who is adaptable to working long hours in unsociable times of the day and night, and is willing to give more than 100% to the job that they are doing. And I think that working in the events industry is quite different to working in many other industries, in that you need a variety of different skills and competencies to be successful, in addition to your educational qualifications and experience. In terms of job opportunities, I think the job opportunities will be probably country specific. And I'm from the United Kingdom, so I know that in the United Kingdom, the events industry is still a growth industry in terms of business events. So that's working within the MICE industries, meetings, incentives, conventions and exhibitions. We're also strong on our music and nighttime economy events and sporting events as another example. So job opportunities, I think, will be country specific. And I'm sure that in Sri Lanka, there will be similar job opportunities in MICE and in festivals, and very importantly, in the weddings industry and the family celebrations industries as well. But the job opportunity for you as an individual future employee, you need to understand what you are good at in relation to working in the events industry. Are you a creative person? Are you a technical person? Have you got good marketing skills? Are you able to lead other people? And then think about where can those skills be best utilized in your career. So it's a very important two questions that we've had, and I hope I've given my perspective, and I know that Dr. Bam will also be able to give her perspective as well.
Yes, Dr. Blam, please.
Thank you. To just share some more insights. So what is interesting about the events industry, as mentioned also by Professor Hind, is the skills are transferable, actually. The skills that you learn in events management are so useful, whether you move in, whether you're an event organizer within a company, within non-profit organization, within a foundation, because these skills include like critical thinking, you're being resourceful, you're quick at your feet, you know, you've got to solve those problems quickly, and you've got to be creative, and you have to be a people person, like what Professor Hines said. But I'd also like to add that you've got to be good at your numbers, because events require budgets, and you have to be able to juggle all of that along with the objectives that you have set forth. And we cannot avoid the fact that you have to understand what this means, especially if you have sponsors participating in your event. And in terms of the opportunities, I'd say, why don't you create your own opportunities? Especially in this generation, you have just an array of things that you can do that we, in our previous generation, or in our generation when I started in the industry, was not available. For example, you could be in the social media marketing, you could be in sponsorships per se, you can be so specialized. I have friends who actually do only book fairs, only pharmaceutical events, only weddings, only birthday parties for children. You could also be skilled in technology. You could be behind the scene as a production person. And you can be an entrepreneur. You can actually put up your own company, whether you're specializing on one or whether you're like a full service agency. And I'd also like to emphasize that you will be in the best position if you have a network of people who are supportive and who have available resources that you can tap anytime that you have an event. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you, Madam, and thank you, sir, that the views are very important. And this case, actually, that those are kind of a guidance and advices for the students in this case, in this particular question. And we have a question from our faculty member that you can ask a question, please.
Hello, thank you very much the two professors to giving the very wonderful information regarding two topics, and have a nice day both of you, right? My question is goes to the Professor Hind, right? Please the conclude for this question. My question is, have you identified any challenges when we are organizing the events to the Y and Z generations? Have you identified any challenges, especially any traits regarding that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and a very, very important question. And I would say at this moment in time, the biggest challenge, I think, for any event organizer is marketing an event to attract the target number of participants to make the event financially viable. And I think that relates to Generation Y and Generation Z as much as it does to older generations. If you, I think, were to speak to an event organizer, they would say it's our big challenge. We can have a wonderful concept for the event, a beautiful venue, we can have great performers, but it's the marketing of the event which is the challenge. Unless you are a performer like Coldplay, who will sell their tickets within seconds. But for a small scale event organizer, you're in a very competitive market. There are many different opportunities for people to spend their time. They can use their digital devices. They can be with their friends and family. They don't necessarily have to go to an event. So I would say that the biggest challenge, or not the biggest, but one of the significant challenges is communicating about your event to your target audience and giving them a reason for why they should attend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Professor Maria, do you have something to add to the same question?
Oh, yeah, I also think that one of the issues would be apathy, and aside from the competition, there's just too many things going on at the same time, and it's really a matter of what Professor Hind was saying. It's a focus. It's marketing driven, and it's also making sure that they know the value that will be received. Sometimes it's a miscommunication of like, it's just another conference, or even with weddings, sometimes you get people to RSVP, but they don't come for whatever reason. So these are also relevant even in other types of events other than MICE. You can even come up with a fantastic idea, but then it goes against ethical standards. Like you may want to have an immersion with elephants in Thailand, or you may want to do some riding of carretelas or coaches in Intramuros, but that goes against what it means for these animals as well. So there are very different objectives that can be misaligned when in terms of coming up with event, and that can actually hurt the organizers and the other stakeholders involved. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that the another question we got about the event tourism, or that MICE tourism, that what are the new trends you have observed about, especially in the fields of event and MICE? We know that it's abroad, that especially when it comes to that the MICE industry, MICE tourism, rather, that what are the new trends you observe in UK, and also that you in Philippines, and also that the Southeast Asian region? That Professor Maria?
Thank you, Professor. What is interesting is MICE is actually the bigger driver of tourism, as far as I have read, as far as listened to professional organizers and the members of the academy as well. It's just that I think leisure tourism is more exciting. It's easier to push. You talk of the attractions, whereas MICE tourism requires investments from the clients, requires time and resources also from the participants. But I am actually more of a MICE organizer than a special events or a sports organizer. I'm more of a MICE and an entertainment person. So I see that there is that certain charm that brings it together. However, it has to have that value that is different from the same things over and over again. As what Professor Hind was saying, it's more of not just the concept. It's more of immersion, engagement, authentic experiences. But in terms of numbers, MICE can actually bring in the volume as well as the return on investments. We're talking of moving from one destination to the other. So I hope and pray that MICE tourism gets its resources back, gets its act together, so that we can actually develop more interesting concepts and get people to network, because it's more of business and volume sales. It's more of people networking. It's more of a combination also of leisure and the conferences and exhibitions. Thank you, sir.
Professor Hind, sir, can you tell something based on your experience in UK?
About the MICE industry?
Yeah, or that new trends about the MICE tourism.
Yeah. Well, I can't really speak about MICE tourism as such, but I can say a few words about the MICE industry. And I think what we're seeing at the moment is a big change in MICE events as a result of developments within technology. And I think that this technological revolution, if I can call it a revolution, is going to reshape how we see MICE events in the future. And there always will be the demand for in-person events, in-person MICE events. But the staging of an in-person conference, for example, is going to be transformed through artificial intelligence, through the use of virtual reality, and all of the other technological innovations, because the MICE industry, the conferences, will very quickly, if they aren't at the moment, start to look like, and I've used this example previously, a Coldplay concert. The Coldplay and all the other big mega international music stars are creating experiences that the audience who go to a Coldplay conference will also likely go to a business event as part of their working activity. So I think that the MICE industry needs to really harness technology in a similar way to that which the entertainment industry is using, because the participants will be expecting it. So I think that's a big switch for the future for the MICE industry. It will become more like an entertainment experience as well as being an educational experience. And then the other thing which I think we saw through the pandemic, which will continue, is that we'll see more hybrid events taking place within the MICE industry as a result of company budgets not being able to afford to send people to in-person events, as well as the flexibility that the technology gives for having an audience from many different regions of the world attending the event at the same time. So that's what I think is going to happen in the MICE events industry.
Okay, thank you, Professor. We have another question that is within the in the chat box that is from our former faculty member. Now she is in USA. She has joined from USA for this webinar, and the question is how it is challenging to address the aspect of accessibility in the case of the equal access for the differently able people in organized events. Yes.
Yeah, it's a key requirement of every event organizer that every participant should have the opportunity of participating in the event. And the words that I'm going to use are important, irrespective of their additional needs. So the words additional needs are the words which are important. And in the United Kingdom, the event organizer, and these words are important, has a duty of care to ensure that all participants have a comparable experience of the event that they are attending. It's a legal requirement, you have to. And the event organizer must, in their registration form, have a question or questions on their registration form asking if that participant has additional needs. Those additional needs could be sensory in relation to sight impairment or hearing impairment, or they could be relating to a physical additional need. It could be religious, it could be dietary, but we need to ask before participants attend if they have an additional need. And if they have, we have to make reasonable adjustments to ensure that that participant can engage in the event as well as everybody else who is attending. So that's the UK perspective. I think it might be different in other parts of the world where there isn't the legal requirement to make the adjustments, but everybody who's attending. So what this means now, especially, perhaps I would say especially between the UK and Europe, is that event venues must think about how they can welcome everybody to their event. And that will include accessibility for transport, the sensory aids that are needed for hearing impairment and sight impairment, and being able to offer a variety of different cuisines, and also spaces for religious prayer rooms to take place as well. So it's essential. It's essential.
That in Sri Lanka, actually, that we need to improve a lot of things, that it is not a legal requirement. In Sri Lanka, that Professor Maria, what is the situation in Philippines?
Well, in the Philippines, we actually have laws in terms of accessibility, not just for events, but for infrastructure, as well as for different needs. No, very, very much focused also on inclusivity. That includes the LGBTQIA+. It's kind of slow despite the laws that we have, simply because probably the adjustment in terms of the changes in infrastructure has to be using budget so that they can make this more inclusive and more accessible. In some of the experiences that I've had, I've seen that there are now some sign language interpreters as well that are part of an event, so that there will be that access for those who may need that kind of facility or assistance. There also are interfaith prayers. The Filipino is a predominantly Catholic Christian country, but there has been a move towards having interfaith prayers, even for events in universities as well, so that there is more consideration for other people of other faiths. In terms of menu and cuisine, that has been also one of the things that has been being attended to, especially because the Philippines is a seafood country. Although we're heavy carnivores, I would say, no, it's more like a bacon thing that a lot of people love here. But there is a move now to include that in questionnaires for surveys and participants if they have special needs. So we're not just looking at access in terms of people with special needs, in terms of physical disability, but in terms of needs that may be very much dependent on either technology or infrastructure. And we hope to be able to push this further. Maybe the young people would also be able to do this more. So we have the laws in place. We just need to be able to implement it more and take more notice of what we need to do so that it becomes really inclusive. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, both of you, that best practices are very important for the other regions of the world to adopt. Then another question is there from our faculty member. Yes, please. You can ask your question.
Okay. So good evening. As first, Professor David and Dr. Maria. Okay. So there are when considering this industry, so there are several aspects, and there are several technologies can be used for managing events and other things. So that actually my question based on what would be the future of this industry? It means that there are several industries, but so event management is a special thing in those industries. So what would be the future on that?
Yep. So excuse me. The question is, what is the future?
Yeah, what would be the future of that event management industry in the world? It means that we can use kind of a technologies like AI and other things, no. So there are several technologies we can apply for managing some kind of that events or in events in any industries. Actually, my question based on that, the future of that.
Okay.
It means that how we can do kind of how we can apply those kind of new updated technologies for that.
Yeah, very good. Okay. So, yeah, it's very, very true that the world in which we live is advancing so rapidly with technological innovations. And I think from an event organizer's perspective, a lot depends upon the size of the event organizing company that you are working within. If you are an entrepreneur, if you have a small event organizing company, then the responsibility lies, I think, on your shoulders or somebody within your team to become up to date with all of the latest developments in technology. And one way that you can do that is to use an event technology specialist company. I would think that in most countries of the world, there will be event technology companies that are working with the latest innovations in technology. So if I give one example of a company that I'm very familiar with, it's called a company called Evensis, 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 which is based in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And it's a small entrepreneurial technology company that has not only kept up to date with what's happening, but has developed its own applications of technology as well. So if I am an event organizer and I'm organizing an event and I do not have the expertise, then I would subcontract to a company like Evensis in order to provide that technical expertise for me. If I am a larger event organizing company, it may well be that as part of the in-house team, we have a specialist department that is developing and utilizing technologies. But I think it's a responsibility for many people in the events industry just to do their own research, attend online events which are about technology, and understand what is happening in the world of technology today. So I'm not sure if that was an answer to your question, Professor Camila, but I hope that I've sort of answered either directly or indirectly what you were asking about. And I'll hand back to Dr. Amila to see if I answer the question correctly.
Yes, that is. Thank you so much for your answer. That the Professor Maria, do you have something to add?
Yes, sir. Having been in the industry for what I call a million years, because that was the first career that I embarked in, and I still am doing my special events and entertainment shows. With or without the technology, we should always not forget the basic fundamental objective on an event is to make sure that the stakeholders, the primary stakeholders, the client, the sponsors, the attendees, and their objectives are met. Technology can enhance, speed up, entertain, make it fantastic, but at the end of the day, they will ask us, so how much money did I make on your exhibit? Or how many people did I touch with my training? So I would like go back to the basic and make sure that despite all of the fantastic opportunities for making it so really wonderful and out of this world, we've got to make sure that we hinge and leverage on the objectives of our primary stakeholders. Otherwise, no amount of partying and music and entertainment can actually bring them back together, or that make them feel that their time and their effort and their money was used for a good cause. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I would like to prove that we have already passed the time, but that your knowledge and insights are so valuable for us. Then that I would like to move to the last question, that is again from the audience. Is it possible to use the event industry or events for the poverty alleviation? Are there any kind of examples from UK or that the Philippines or anywhere you know the poverty alleviation, the usage of the event as a kind of a tool for poverty alleviation?
Yeah. Could you repeat the question again, Dr. Amila?
Yeah, Professor, that the one participant has asked a question that it is possible to use some events for the eradication of the kind of the ethnic, the economic issues on a particular area. It's like that proper tourism, we know that proper tourism, like that. Is it possible to use some events for reduce the poverty in a particular area? Are there any kind of examples or projects?
Yeah, very good. Okay. So again, a very important question. And if I've understood it correctly, can events be used for economic and social development? Is that right, Dr. Amila?
Yeah, so especially that the people with some kind of low living standards, the poor people.
Okay. So I'm going to answer this question from the case of a government agency. So yes, a local community can organize events that will contribute to the development of the economy in their village or their region. It can be developed by the community themselves. But I think that if the local, regional, or national government wishes to fundamentally improve the economy of a particular region within that country, then they can help to do this by an event portfolio. What do I mean by an event portfolio? I mean that you can organize strategically a series of different events over the calendar year that will help raise the profile of perhaps a disadvantaged region economically, and that can bring in additional spending by event participants into that locality or that region. But it needs to be done strategically. Yes, you can have a one-off event. That one-off event might be successful, but what happens when that event is finished? So if there is an agency that can develop a portfolio of events, so that there's an event in January, there's another type of event in March, there's another type of event in May, then that will have a bigger impact than having a single event on a specific moment in time. But it needs organizing, it needs resource to attract people to come and to stage the event. But having an event portfolio is one way in that we can assist a community that might be struggling economically to have a greater level of employment and income coming into that locality. But it does need, I think, an agency support such as from a local, regional, or national government agency.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your very important view that based on that the reality of the implementation. The Professor Ba.
Yes, sir. In the Philippines, I'm very excited to say that we have a calendar of events, specifically because we're, as I said, a country full of festivals. This is coming from the Catholic Christian faith that we have. And so it's the biggest festivals or the biggest events would be Christmas, New Year, and the Holy Week. But what we have experienced is that it is a bottoms-up activity also for small-scale events. For example, there are communities that have their own bazaars. These are called Changge in the Philippine context. And these are small scale business micro entrepreneurs who put up their wares on specific schedules. And then later on, they become known for that. For example, in Taytay Rizal, which is on the east of Metro Manila, they used to be known for just manufacturing. Now they have an area there where they put up their clothes, bags, and other merchandise for sale at certain days of the week, usually on the weekends. And then we also have communities coming up with a marching band competition. We're actually, I think, also event driven as far as that is concerned. And they do this, and I have observed and I've seen and I've read with or without the government. Like, they just want to put up this competition on, especially beauty pageants from the level of the barangay up to the town level to the level of the city. So these are small scale events that become regular annual events that take place in the same destinations and are replicable. For example, the bike tourism paper that I did, this was simply an interest from cyclists to visit certain destinations after they received, or we received, our freedom of movement when the restrictions on COVID were lifted. Now it has become a regular competition on for professional and amateur cyclists, and this is all driven by the community. It is all driven by the Facebook group, Facebook clubs of these cyclists. And once it becomes big, they sometimes secure the sponsors or maybe the endorsement and support of the government. But I'm happy to share that maybe our love for events has driven us to come up with different types of activities from the lowest level, I mean lowest, like the barangay, the smallest level, I'm sorry, not the lowest, but the smallest unit of the community up to a regional level. And sometimes this is taken, given the support from the government, whether it's a local tourism office or it's the National Tourism Office, when it gets to a point where it is so popular and it now requires more logistics as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Baum. And we are going to conclude the webinar, and we would like to express our gratitude to Professor David Hind and also Professor Maria for sharing their expertise, their knowledge, and also that experience in the industry. I think over 30 years, both of you are the leading expert in this field in Asia Pacific and beyond. And I would like to thank all of our participants. We have audience from the Philippines and also Sri Lanka, and also some people join from USA and India and some other countries as well. And at last, dear all, please switch on your cameras and pose for a photograph. Please switch on your video cameras. Wait, the second proof. Okay, thank you very much for joining with us today. And it is end of our second edition of the UCR Global Leisure webinar series. We'll join with you in future with the third version of UCR Global Leisure webinar series. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Hind and Professor Baum.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to visiting Sri Lanka maybe later this year and meeting as many of our wonderful participants as I can who've been on the webinar today. But thank you so much, Dr. Emila, for the invitation. And I'm always very happy to participate either in person or virtually. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. We are looking forward to meet you here in Sri Lanka, that you are always warmly welcome to Sri Lanka. Okay,
Thank you
Thank you very
Professor.
much.
Thank you very much, Professor Bob. Thank you very much, Professor David.